when you're in that kind of hazy, not really awake,
Hmm.
not really asleep yet, and you're in that haziness, that's the theta brainwave states.
Hi, and welcome to the Kid and Friends podcast. Today's guest is Craig Meriwether. He's a certified clinical hypnotherapist and medical hypnosis specialist who helps people access the power of the subconscious mind to heal anxiety, trauma, and deep emotional patterns. Craig combines clinical hypnotherapy, NLP, past life regressions, and natal regression to help clients uncover the root causes of fears, limiting beliefs, and self-sabotage. With more than a decade of experience, he works with everyone from students and entrepreneurs to veterans and athletes, guiding them forward toward confidence, clarity, and real transformation. Nice to meet you, man.
Christopher, how are you? I'm fine. Happy that we finally got a chance to chat.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I think we canceled once or twice before.
Yeah, we were supposed to do it in December, and
Yeah,
then
I don't
a
recall what
few
was
weeks
happening,
later.
but there was a lot going on for both of us, I think. So, understanding that I'm going to talk to you tonight,
Mhm.
this wasn't even on my radar. I was at a movie festival last January, and I met a nice couple. And every now and then they'll just message and say hi and stuff like that. And the I don't know if she was the girlfriend or the wife commented on one of my posts.
Oh,
And a few weeks ago, I reached out and I said, "Hey, I hope everything's going well." And her response was, "Life's terrible, everything's horrible." Was
oh,
basically how the conversation went.
yeah.
And uh, she messaged me last night at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Uh, and I could tell she needed help and someone to talk to.
Yeah.
Honestly, we're strangers, but I felt obliged to have a conversation.
Right.
And basically, the conversation was that she had experienced significant loss. She
Mhm.
had a child. She was a few months pregnant and had a miscarriage.
Okay.
And the child had been diagnosed with Down syndrome.
Mhm.
The boyfriend slash husband, I'm still not sure uh, chose it to take that time to wind up leaving her. And the child passed, and it's been nothing but downhill for her since. And she reached out to me. And if you were to ask me any of the stuff I said today in the conversation, or would have said anything remotely close to what I said today, a few years ago, I would have looked at you like you had two heads.
Yeah.
And my conversation to her was uh, it involved soulmates, soul families, soul
Yeah.
groups. I went down that path and it didn't feel weird to do it, where it would have felt really strange a few years ago.
Right.
And
Right.
my conversation with her was, and also the boyfriend left and got back together with an old girlfriend, and the family has been nothing but just terrible to her since the pregnancy. Uh, my conversation with her was essentially about those things with soulmates, soul families, etc., and that maybe the baby decided it wasn't time for him to enter her life based on how the future might turn out with this person as the father.
Yeah.
And as it was coming out of my mouth and I was doing voice to text, I understood how crazy it sounded.
Yeah.
And it also made a shitload of sense to me at the same time. And I would love to get your thoughts on it because the synchronicity of it was I'm having a conversation with you tonight about
Yeah.
past life regressions and natal regressions. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, on all those topics. There's a lot going on there, but I essentially left the conversation with it. She's probably much better off than where she would have been had she
Okay.
stayed with the relationship because there probably would have been some infidelity, infighting with the family, and a lifetime of just hard work taking care of a child that has a disability.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm going to put it in your hands now and see and get your
Yeah.
thoughts.
That's a difficult conversation to be having, even over text at 3 o'clock in the morning. Um, it certainly sounds like that's an
She's going,
extraordinary amount of loss.
yeah,
Just the hardship of finding out that you're carrying a child that might have some mental or physical difficulties. losing a child in and of itself, only right around the same time your partner, who you thought was going to be with you for the entirety of your life, is gone and
Yeah.
not giving you support. Um, and it's kind of you and compassionate of you to, have that conversation with her in such a
Yeah. And we
oddball time of the day.
well, I didn't see her message until I got up this morning, but I
Uh,
reached out and my hope was that she hadn't done anything to herself or anything like that. And it sounds like she's actually fine. But
yeah,
as these words were coming out of my mouth, I was like, I don't even know who's saying these. This is because it's not something I would have been on my radar years ago. And
yeah,
the past life regressions things means a lot to me, and so does the. I'll give you another quick side story. When I was a kid, I went to Catholic school. You know, they teach you how to think, how to believe, all this stuff. It's kind of pounded into your head and forced upon you. When I got out of there, I never wanted to go back to church again. And then I hit a point in my life where I didn't believe in anything. And I thought you just died. And then over the last few years, I've come to the conclusion that my soul is eternal and it's going to keep coming back until I
yeah,
learn every lesson that I need to learn, no matter how difficult they are.
yeah,
And part of that conversation today was the soul contract part where, you choose the life that comes before you and choose the suffering that you're going to go through or whatever lessons you need to learn. And
right.
you being a past life regression expert, I figured this was an ideal way to start the conversation and kind of touch on a tough topic for a lot of people.
Yeah, and yeah, it is a tough topic. Losing a child,
Yeah.
whether in utero or just maybe young in life or later in life. Uh, this life seems to be filled with tragedy and hardship, and it's
Yeah.
it's hard to, and we want an explanation.
Yeah.
And this seems like a really good one, and maybe even an accurate one, because a lot of this information that we're talking about, this comes from the work of Michael Newton.
Okay.
And the at least the first two books, of course, the other ones, but the first two books are kind of key in the core of this information about soul groups and soul families and things. He's not the only one, of course, but what's fascinating about his work and the work he wrote about in Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls is that it's not like channeled information, or it's not that he's a psychic, or that he just worked with one person who had an experience or
Right.
handling this information. Back in 1969, he was, as a psychotherapist, he was working with his patient and wanting to use hypnotherapy, some of the techniques under the umbrella term of hypnotherapy, to regress him back to
Hmm.
childhood to deal with some of the hurt and pain he was dealing with, the trauma he was dealing with. Wanted to regress him back to childhood and do some of that healing work. Well, they're doing the hypnosis and hypnotherapy, and the guy keeps going. He goes past childhood, he goes past being a newborn, he goes past being in utero, and he goes all the way back to being in soul state.
Wow.
Like, just you're a soul, you're a spirit, what Michael Newton called life between lives.
Okay.
And this fascinated him. And his patient of his did his deep healing work there while in that soul state, up in spirit worlds, the soul realm, life between lives. And this fascinating Michael Newton, and he's like, can other people do this work?
Right.
Was this just a kind of a weird one-off? Was this more symbolic or metaphoric uh, healing created by the subconscious mind? And so he started working with people and seeing if he could get people back to the state on purpose. That was accidental.
Oh, okay. Nothing
He
intentional
developed,
about it.
yeah, he wasn't intentionally trying to get him back to soul state. He's trying to get him back to being 8 years old or something.
Yeah.
And so, could he do it on purpose? Could he get people, other people, into this soul realm, this life between lives, as remembering being a soul or connecting with that soul energy that's still there? And developed this protocol over just working with people over several years. And as he's working with people, they're having similar experiences
Hmm.
with other people. Now,
Okay.
this is 1970s. It's not like there's a Facebook group, or that
Right.
they're WhatsApp or texting each other or anything.
Yeah.
There's no internet about. These people didn't know each other. They're from other parts of the country, maybe different parts of the world, different ages. and they're all having, not all, but a lot of them are having similar experiences to each other in
Okay.
terms of this soul group and this idea that we're coming back here to learn and to grow and to develop as souls, not unlike maybe going to school
Yeah.
and you just keep returning to school and you go from the first grade to the second grade to the third grade, and then you're in high school and then you're getting your bachelor's and your
Yeah.
master's and your PhD. And you just keep learning and growing and developing as a soul, not unlike maybe learning mathematics. Like you
Sure.
just don't start with the crazy equations
Right.
like Goodwill Hunting or whatever.
You don't
And
go to trigonometry right off
yeah,
the bat.
no, you start with 2 + 2 = 4 in the first grade.
Yeah.
And then you go up in second and third grade, you're learning subtraction, and then you're learning your times tables. And then as you're getting, you're learning your long division. Then you get into your algebra and your calculus and your trigonometry. Then you're doing those crazy equations while you're getting
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
master's degree at a university. Well, it seems like we're doing similar work. If you look at every grade, first grade, second grade, third grade, high school, master's degree, as a life.
Yeah.
Well, it took multiple lifetimes to multiple grades. So you're looking at 12, 15 years if you're getting a master's degree, maybe a PhD
Sure.
in mathematics. If you looked at each grade or each year there as a life, maybe it took
Hmm.
multiple lives for us to maybe learn love or compassion,
Yeah.
you know? And what's interesting is and we're talking about thousands of people. He
Right.
did this work all through the 70s, all through the 80s.
Oh,
Then
okay.
he wrote his book, Journey of Souls, in 1992. So at that
Wow.
point, he'd done some 20, 22, 23 years worth of research, 365 days a year. He's working with tens of thousands of people by the time he gets
And
to
just
1992.
refining the way he does it every time.
Yeah, find a way to do it. And he's doing like these long 3 hour, 4 hour
Yeah.
sessions with people.
Okay.
So
Like Iron Man
detailed.
sessions.
Yeah, so he's getting detailed information. He's not just doing a half an hour and asks a
Yeah.
question and moves on. He's working with people and he's asking detailed, precise questions,
Hmm.
similar questions of similar people, like what's your experience when you go to the healing place or when you reunite with your soul group? What is that like? And people are having similar experiences. And he writes about that in his first book. He then does another decade's worth of work in the 90s. In the 1990s. And the second book, Destiny of Souls, kind of volume two, comes out in 2002, 2003, something like that. And it's twice as long as the first book.
Right.
And it's just this extraordinary detail of information. And that's where this information, a lot of it, of course, is coming from other books and other people. But in terms of maybe more scientifically valid, it's not like a double-blind test or
Sure.
anything like this, but that you could do 30 years worth of research and you're continually having similar results with the people you're working with.
It's got to be something there to it.
Got to be something there.
Yeah.
And so even if some people are having more symbolic, metaphoric, subconscious experiences to create healing, they
Yeah.
can't all be. Even at the very least, they're tapping into some sort of collective unconscious.
Well, you figure at the
Or
same
young with
time, like you said at the beginning, there was no Facebook or anything else like social media where you could just jump into the mix. Like a lot of people were probably feeling lost during those times and getting help, and there's no connection to all these people. Like right now, if something happens on the other side of the world, you hear about it within a few hours,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
You back then newspaper was where you would find about it, and if you looked hard enough in a magazine you might find it. But for people to find their way and have similar experiences where they don't really have uh, something to base their opinion off of already, there's no bias
right.
to what they're jumping into and what they're learning from it. Probably every one of these conversations was like starting fresh every time because they're not aware of similar results from other people.
Yeah, and you got to understand the 1970s. There was 4 TV channels.
Yeah.
There's no podcast. There's no YouTube. There's this information isn't widely available.
Right.
And so to have, okay, maybe a handful of people, but to have tens of thousands of people over the course of 30 years and now 60 years, the Michael Newton Institute is still doing research. They released a book a couple of years ago, Wisdom of the Soul, or Souls, or something, about, I think, 2023, something like that. They're still doing the research 60 years later. They're
Yeah.
still finding new information to present to people. And it can be extraordinarily fascinating because, well, it may not answer every question. I think it gives a sense of relief that maybe in and of itself, maybe it's not happening for a purpose, but there's
Right.
some sort of, groundwork happening in soul state or soul world that things are going to work out in the end.
Yeah.
And
Like the conversation I had with her was maybe the baby chose all this because it
Mhm.
understood the lack of dedication from the father
Could be.
and the suffering the mother might go through based on all of that, and maybe just decided to take a different route, or it wasn't time.
Or for her to learn compassion and empathy and love.
Yeah.
Really should, these three extraordinary things of losing the baby, her partner, and getting a lot of grief from her
Sure.
partner's, her in-laws or her
Yeah.
partner family. It may be that catalyst she needs to learn and grow and develop.
Right.
It's not unlike, say, using something, broad and general, like learning about wealth and abundance, let's say.
Sure.
Of course, obviously, it would be important to really understand wealth by having wealth, having the yacht and the private jet and the house in the south of France and the apartment overlooking Central Park and all that.
Sure.
But would it not also be helpful in learning wealth and abundance to live in abject poverty in
Yeah.
Calcutta, on the streets of Calcutta, sleep in the streets or down back alleys? Would it be helpful in understanding wealth and abundance to have, be a single mom with five kids living paycheck to paycheck?
Yeah.
Would that be
Yeah.
helpful? And so, in and of itself, to learn about maybe self-compassion or self-love,
Sure.
I mean, to have to go through that fire,
Well, I said to her as well, I said there's a yin and a yang to everything.
yeah,
And the pain is there to maybe give you a lesson about something else. And sometimes that joy is to teach you about the pain. Like there's always something that comes with it on either side.
sure, yeah. I mean, a great example, right in your background, you have Marilyn Monroe,
Yeah.
and one would consider like one of the most extraordinarily beautiful people in the world, at least on film, extraordinarily funny and talented and a great
Sure.
voice, but seemingly uh, a lot of pain in her life,
Yeah.
even though she was one of the most beloved and famous and beautiful people in the world.
Right. Also suffered
Went,
at the same time.
went through three marriages.
Yeah.
By the end of it was just, you know, um, doing a lot of pills and alcohol and just to numb the pain.
Yeah. To
And
not
so,
suffer anymore.
yeah. And so you never know what somebody's going through or why, or maybe even why they need to go through it.
Yeah.
But you were there for her to support and encourage,
Mhm.
and necessarily not maybe taking her pain away or holding her pain for her, but giving
Yeah.
her the hope that, okay, well, there is something else going on.
Yeah.
Now,
And the conversation was like there's nothing I can say to change any of the way she feels.
yeah,
But what I can do is reframe the perspective of it,
yeah,
of how you're looking at it. And I also use an example of when I was younger, my grandfather was in his late 80s, and he started giving myself and my cousins all big checks at Christmas time.
yeah,
And there was one year that he gave me a $2,000 check. I was excited. I had all kinds of things I was going to buy the next day.
yeah,
And the next day, my hot water heater went and cost me about $2,000. And originally I was mad because I didn't want to spend the money my grandfather gave me. But when I reframed it in my head to be thankful that I had $2,000 that I could spend to fix it immediately without really causing me any stress or damage, it
yeah,
changed me, and it changed the way I frame things in my head. And I know the NLP is part of that, is changing the way you think about things to reframe them in your head and have a different perspective where you can use that to learn. And I find that a lot of people that I talk to are hypnotherapists are also NLP experts as well.
yeah,
And those things
yeah,
kind of go hand in hand.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, one of the great, neurolinguistic programming is based, a good chunk of is based on the work of Milton Erickson, who is a great
Hmm.
hypnotherapist. And two guys, Bandler and Grinder, John Grinder and Richard Bandler, back in the early 70s, were having discussions. One was a mathematician, the other was a linguist at UC Santa Cruz. And they're having discussions about all these news and reports and articles coming about these great healers who are just using language.
Hmm.
Milton Erickson, Lauren Fitzpearls, and all these other therapists who somehow seem to have this extraordinary, almost magical,
Hmm.
mystical ability to just talk to somebody and have them create great emotional and mindset changes.
Wow.
And so they thought, could that be codified? Could that be analyzed? And so they started studying the work of Milton Erickson and Laura Pearls and Fritz Pearls and all these other therapists,
Hmm.
listening to the language, listening to rhythm, listening to tone, listening to pacing, codifying it. And that's how neurolinguistic programming got started.
Wow.
And it was very, academic and formulated in that world. And it was really
Sure.
people like Tony Robbins and Will Hort and some other people in the 80s who started bringing it to the masses and say, look
Is
at this.
Tony Robbins considered a neurolinguistic?
That's how he started. He
Oh,
started in
okay.
the 80s explaining neurolinguistic programming.
Okay.
And he got famous by going on like morning talk shows.
Yeah.
And somebody would, like Good Morning Houston or something like that, one of those kind of shows.
Sure.
And they have somebody who was like deathly afraid of snakes or
Yeah.
spiders or something. And so he would do his neurolinguistic programming techniques of language and other things to remove that fear of snakes. And then they'd have the zoo person, the zoologist come out
Bring in a
of the
creature.
the Houston Zoo and have all the boa constrictors and the snakes and the other things, and then snakes would be crawling all over the person. They'd be like, "Oh, this is amazing," or they'd have the bug person come out,
Yeah.
have the spiders crawl all over the person. That's how he
Wow.
got famous. And then he started moving it more into a personal development, self-help kind of thing with Man
Okay.
Within and person, what the other books, whatever the other books were at the late 80s and early 90s. And now we see him in front of arenas. He's still doing the same work.
Yeah.
I mean, his whole core and the root of his work is neurolinguistic programming.
Oh, okay. I never
Changing
put two and two
state and
together with that.
using reframing and using language. You watch those little clips of him on Instagram and TikTok
Yeah.
and and he's talking to somebody in the audience.
Does he
Because
do
that's,
hypnotherapy as well?
I don't know that I'm sure he knows how to do it.
Yeah. But it
In
might
and of
not be on the
itself that
forefront of what he does.
yeah, I don't know that in and of itself. I think he's more based in that neurolinguistic Again, it's that gray line or
Yeah.
that hypnotherapy is more of an umbrella term
Sure.
of techniques and tools and where's that line that this is precisely exactly neurolinguistic programming, but this is guided visualization and this is meditation and this is hypnotherapy, it
Yeah.
all kind of informs upon itself and
But
techniques are traded and used. So
a lot of people don't understand what hypnotherapy is. Like they think hypnosis, it's you're going to make me do stuff I don't want to do. You're going
yeah,
to make me bark like a dog, all this other nonsense. And
yeah.
yeah, that's fun. That's entertainment. But I listened to another podcast that you were on and you were talking about the inability to make somebody do something they don't want to do,
Mhm.
right? There has to be some sort
Yeah.
of interest in whatever the outcome is for them, you to even have any progress. Is that right?
Yeah, that's why smoking cessation, probably the most famous thing hypnotherapy is known for, helping people to quit smoking.
Yeah,
It's not 100% guarantee because if that person doesn't want to quit smoking, they won't quit smoking.
sure.
Because if their wife or their husband made the appointment, say, you know what, I'm
Right.
tired of smoking, the health implications, the cost, the stink of it all, everything
Yeah.
smells. You're quitting smoking. You're quitting smoking. So I made you an appointment for Thursday
Right.
to go for the appointment. The teacher I had at the Hypnotherapy Academy of America, Tim Zimmerman, talked of a story where somebody paid him $800 to do like 3 sessions or 4 sessions of smoking cessation work.
Yeah.
And the first session, he says, "Oh, I'm not quitting. I just want to tell my wife that I tried everything, including hypnotherapy, and I'm going to smoke in the garage.
Yeah.
It was used
So
as a chain technique because he
he's
didn't
just
want to
appeasing
quit.
his wife.
Yeah, and so it's not that Tim, as the expert, extraordinarily skillful and expert hypnotherapist, can't just snappy his fingers and tap him on the head with a magic wand and he'd stop smoking. Otherwise, I could go into every Las Vegas casino and every Las Vegas bar and everybody would quit smoking and everybody'd be healthier. I'd
Yeah.
be able to go into prisons and hypnotize everybody to be law-abiding, upstanding citizens.
Right.
I would be able to hypnotize my way into the United Nations and create world peace. I'd be
Yeah.
the guy who create people, they erect statues and sing songs about me. I'd be the guy who ended war and created world
Thousand
peace.
years from now, there would be a statue somewhere
Yeah,
with your face on
yeah,
it.
but I can't do that. That's
Yeah.
not how it works. It has to be your intention
Right.
to do that work. And if you want to quit smoking, then you'll quit smoking.
Right.
If you want the confidence to speak in front of people, if you want to, in that fear of flying, if you want to drop the heaviness of that anger or that anxiety or that hurt and pain, even if you don't know where it comes from, you're
Yeah.
allowed to do that. You're allowed to take down that armoring and that protection code that may have been installed in your subconscious mind, maybe back when you were a kid. Now that whole thing of the Las Vegas shows and comedy clubs and things, and there's people up on stage and they're dancing like Michael Jackson and there's
Yeah.
like Elvis Presley and quacking like ducks and barking like dogs. Every single person who got up there volunteered to be up there.
Right. And they wanted to
Nobody's
do
going to go.
whatever action that was.
It's not going to be a good show. And a Las Vegas show is expensive. Even the kind of quote unquote no name shows of just
Yeah.
the casino hypnotherapist who's doing the hypnotherapy show. And who's that hypnotist going to pick? Are they picking the introvert in the back of the room, sitting in the
Right.
shadows, sinking down in their chair? Or are they picking the extrovert who got there early, sat in the front row, and it's like, pick me, pick me, pick me.
Yeah.
One of them is going to do a better show.
Sure.
And
And he can probably pick up on the intentions just based on the way the person's
yeah,
reacting during the show.
it's like a magician, like one of those big magician shows.
Yeah.
They're looking for clues, subtle cues. And they pick like what, 12, 15 people to
Hmm.
get up on stage. They do a test run
Yeah.
because they're looking to see if the person can do it. They're looking for the muscle, the little cues, the little subtle relaxing of the facial muscles. Maybe their jaw slacks a little bit. Eyes are darting around. Maybe they pick up their arm and drop it to see if it's loose and limp. If it's
Right.
not tense, they're off the stage.
Yeah.
Bye. You're not going to do a good show. I think you'd be more comfortable in stage. There's a great TED talk, and off the top of my head, I can't remember the guy's name. I'm sure if you just looked up hypnosis or hypnotherapy or induction,
Hmm.
rapid induction, you'd find it at the TED Talk website. But the whole TED Talk, and these are 18-minute talks.
Hmm.
His whole thing is rapid induction. Rapid induction is great for triage and some trauma stuff that you need to get somebody really quick. This
Yeah.
guy's an expert in this, 30
Wow.
years experience, and it's a big fancy TED Talk.
Yeah.
And there's, probably, a couple hundred people in the audience and big lights and TV cameras and the whole thing because they're professionally filming this thing. And he does a process with everybody. And he says, who felt they went super deep and who would like to come up on stage? And he had like, 12 chairs or something. And who
Yeah.
would like to come up on stage? A bunch of people volunteered. You, and you come up on stage. And so he's already primed them
Yeah.
that he's already doing the work. He did it with the mass audience, and now he's telling them that
He's
they're
whittling it down to
doing
the
the
people that
work.
are most susceptible
Yeah,
to be part of the entertainment.
yeah. And they're giving him permission because they're coming up on stage.
Yeah.
So it's this yes, 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 and yes. He's doing all the even pre-work, the conversational hypnosis, and that Milton Erickson was great at. And then he's going down the line. He's like taking their arms and oh, sleep, and they're just like they're dropping, boom, 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 boom. And he gets to one lady, like the eighth or ninth person, and people are just dropping, boom, boom, boom,
Hmm.
sleep, sleep, sleep. He gets to her. She is so nervous because now there's like two, 300 people staring at her.
Yeah.
All these bright lights, there's these cameras.
Probably never been on stage before.
Probably never been on stage. Didn't think it through. or maybe she got egged on by her, boyfriend or husband
Yeah.
or friends or whatever. Because, oh, I want to get a video. Let's go up there and do it. And he gets to her and he can't get her into that state and he can't drop her.
Yeah.
And the more, he tries again. Now she's getting even more nervous. She's getting
Right.
embarrassed. She's getting
Getting more
humiliated.
resistance.
Yeah. Now she's going up into that stress response. Now, if he had, a few extra minutes, if he had he could probably do it because he's
Yeah.
an
Maybe
expert.
the audience wasn't
Yeah.
there. Like,
Yeah, but he's got 18 minutes. He doesn't have time.
yeah.
He's
Sure.
got 3 minutes left of his talk, and he's got like five more people. And what it is a great example, not of his, not of his lack of skill or his incompetence, but
Hmm.
that you can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do. She didn't feel
Yeah.
safe in that thing, and just in that, there's again 500
Sure.
people on the internet or whatever,
But
300
how
people.
many times have you ever told somebody what you do for a living and then they're like, "Well, I can't be hypnotized." Right? It's
Oh,
probably
yeah,
it's
yeah,
probably every conversation.
yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty standard conversation, and what's fascinating about it is that it really opens up the ability to show them how easy it is for them to actually do it.
Yeah.
Because and it's a great segue into telling them how much control they actually have. Because
Mm.
you can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do, and they didn't feel comfortable in that situation.
Yeah.
With the person they were working with in the room. Maybe they were up on stage in front of a bunch of people. They did not feel comfortable for whatever reason. Maybe it's just life.
Yeah.
Maybe work was just a pain in the ass that day, and they're super stressed, or family issues, or mom's in the hospital, or whatever. Um, they did not feel comfortable
Hmm.
losing or that's not the right word. They did not feel comfortable in that situation or as a
Is,
circumstance at that
is it
time.
because they feel like they're giving up their control and they're not
Maybe
ready to?
they weren't ready and they didn't feel comfortable. They didn't feel safe. Now,
Yeah.
it's not anything against a hypnotherapist, or maybe it is. I
Right.
don't know specifically, but when you explain that this is just normal brainwave state,
Hmm.
this altered state of consciousness, a fancy term of moving into hypnosis, is just the altered brainwave state of alpha. And
Okay.
so the famous ones we learned about is beta, alpha, theta, and delta. And this is literally just how fast your brain is processing information.
Okay.
So you and I right now, Christopher, we're talking, we're having a conversation, we're listening to each other, we're focused and in this grounded and centered in this present moment.
Yeah.
We're in the beta brainwave state. We're firing about 18, 20 cycles per second. In terms, you see those YouTube videos of the electrical storm in the brain when
Yeah.
your hands around or you walk down the street or whatever. How fast that lightning storm happens in terms of the brain cells shooting their little electrical pulses to each other determines what brainwave state you're in. So let's say I'm back in high school math class
Hmm.
and I'm paying attention. It's going to be on the test, and I got to do well. I'm not doing well this semester, and I got to
Right.
do well this test. So I'm paying attention, and I'm trying to figure this out, and it's so boring. And then I just kind of start staring out the window. After thinking about the weekend, I'm going to hang out with my friends. We're going to go
Yeah.
do a bunch of cool stuff. I've just altered my state of consciousness just because I got bored in high school math class. My eyes are open, the fluorescent lights are still on, the teacher's still talking, the kids are
Yeah.
still asking questions and acting up.
And you're
But
there,
I've
but not there.
quieted all that down. I've quieted down my conscious level of mind and started thinking about the future. Maybe I started thinking about vacation I took.
Hmm.
And then my eyes start getting heavy and I mean, I'm not really asleep. I'm not really
Right.
awake. I'm moving down to that theta brainwave state. So I moved from 18, 20 cycles per second down to 12 cycles per second. Literally just slowed down how fast my brain is processing the
Hmm.
world and and the information coming to me. I moved to the alpha brainwave state, that daydreamy state. And
Yeah.
then my eyes start getting heavy. I'm now firing more like 6 cycles per second. I'm in the theta
So
brain.
alpha is the slowest.
Delta is the slowest because that's sleep.
Okay.
So it's
Oh,
so
okay.
beta, alpha, theta, delta, and now there's all these
Sure.
subsections of those and all this stuff. But in terms of just the kind of the four famous ones we learned about, um, when you're in that kind of hazy, not really awake,
Hmm.
not really asleep yet, and you're in that haziness. that's the theta brainwave state. Sleep, like you're in REM sleep and your eyes are
Yeah.
darting around, you're having dreams and things. That's one. That's half cycle per second.
Is there a particular one when you're hypnotizing someone that you're trying to go to, or can you enter all of those at will with somebody?
I don't know about will. It's certainly I generally work with people in the kind of the alpha brainwave state because I want to talk with them.
Yeah.
When I want to work with them with whatever they're there to work on,
Sure.
their
So
anxiety.
alpha, they're still connected to you and they're still able to have a conversation, but the brain waves are starting to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, but I definitely notice when they do their deep healing work, and this is some heavy lifting sometimes,
Yeah.
removing hurt and pain and trauma they may have been carrying for 30 years. They'll drop down after that into the theta because their body needs to kind of reboot itself almost, it seems like.
Okay.
And they'll go back to theta, but they're still listening. Why? Because they wake at five. One, two, three, four, five, fully aware and alert. And they're like, boink, and their eyes open.
Yeah.
The subconscious mind's following all the instructions. And they
Okay.
and in a moment I'm going to count from one up to five. And on five, you're going to open your eyes and return to being fully aware, fully alert, feeling absolutely at peace, calm. And they're following the instructions because they opened their eyes at five.
So the subconscious stays fully connected to you during that, even though the brain
Well,
may be off going somewhere else with the thoughts and revisiting some of the
yeah.
traumas.
Well, yeah, and think about even sleep. The
Yeah.
subconscious mind, you're in deep sleep, but you hear that back door creak open at 4 a.m.
Yeah, you're gonna pop
You
up
know,
right
you got a
away.
kid and you hear the baby or the young kid crying or coughing or sneezing in the
Yeah.
next room, you're waking up. You smell smoke, you're waking up.
Is
Hear the fire
sleep
truck
a
over.
form of hypnosis?
What they call, so we have beta, alpha, theta, delta. Alpha, theta, and delta is what's known as the hypnagogic trance state.
Okay.
All three of those. So technically sleep, and that's why like subliminal suggestions can work so well. Like you listen to a recording as you're falling asleep or
Yeah.
you are asleep, you're hearing all that. Again, you're hearing the fire truck pull up to your house. You're
Hmm.
hearing maybe if it's windy, you're hearing the branch hit against the house. And you're like, well, what was that? Because you wake
Yeah.
up because it's different. It may be unusual, it may be threatening,
Sure.
and maybe it's just a branch hitting the house, but you wake up because you hear it, or you smell
Mm.
the smoke, or you're too hot, you're too cold, you got to go to the bathroom. So all the kind of processes of the body and mind are working even during sleep. Maybe
Okay.
conscious level of beta and even alpha has been quieted down.
Mm.
And obviously your visual processes are asleep, but you're still smelling, you're still hearing, you're still
Sure.
sensing because you're too hot, you're too cold, you kicked off the covers, or it's, the flannel sheets are now too hot because it's getting to be summertime. And so you're still experiencing things. Again,
Yeah.
you're back in the day when we were hunting and gathering, and we sensed marauders coming to steal our horses and our food. We're gonna
Yeah.
wake up.
Right.
We're gonna deal with that. We're not just gonna
Yeah.
be
You're
in a
gonna need
coma.
some sort of reaction to it.
But
So when you're getting someone into the initial state and you're able to have a conversation with them, do they sometimes go into the next level on their own, and then you sit back and let them experience whatever that is, or are you still having a chat with them as they're entering that next level?
it kind of depends on the level. Like it depends on the work we're doing. If we're doing more clinical hypnotherapy, let's say they're working on some hurt or some pain, maybe they experienced some trauma
Sure.
recently or a long time ago. Uh, I want to be able to check in with them, check up on them. Now you see visual cues, even if we're doing a Zoom session, which I do most of my sessions. A lot of us are doing Zoom sessions, whether hypnotherapy or talk therapy or
Sure.
relationship counseling, life coaching, whatever, doctor's appointment. Because Zoom sessions, what the research shows, work as well as in person. In fact, there's some research that shows Zoom sessions work better than in person because you feel relaxed and comfortable in your homes.
Yeah,
But
you're
you're
in your
looking
own
for,
environment, right?
yeah, but you're looking for physical cues as well.
Okay.
Something like 56% of communication is body language.
Yeah.
So, they may grimace or they may tighten their fists or something. It's like, okay, something is happening. And I can ask them about that.
Yeah.
Now, there's been situations, like say they do the deep healing work and they're just like, oh, and they go down into that theta brainwave state to kind of recharge and reset and reboot.
Mm,
They may be so tired because they've been working so hard, they haven't been sleeping well at night,
yeah.
they fall asleep. They go to delta. So you wait a few minutes because they'll cycle back out of it. And they say, now
Oh,
return.
okay. So it's not like they're going to stay asleep while you're there. They're
It's
going
like
to,
high school math class.
they'll
Even if
dip
I'm
into it
like
for a
doing one
minute,
of
just
these, the teacher,
as long as their brain needs it.
yeah, yeah. And it's like, even if I'm falling asleep in high school math class, and the teachers looks at me, hey, Craig, why don't you come up here and do the problem on the board? I'm wide awake.
Yeah.
And even like high school math class, I've altered my state of consciousness 3 or 4 times just by being bored in high school math class. It isn't like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And now I'm super stressed because everybody's staring at me, everybody's laughing at me, I'm embarrassed, I'm humiliated.
Right.
I don't know how to do the problem. I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
I'm super stressed.
I,
So,
I, I own a Brazilian jiu-jitsu school, and
uh,
I'm a second degree black belt, and I teach every day. And when I'm teaching my kids class, I might have 30 kids in the class, and there's always one or two that just somehow go off into space.
yeah,
And I always will interrupt them and say, "Come up and teach the technique." And they'll look at me and they'll be like, and next thing you know, I have their full attention. But
yeah.
it's that same thing. Like they're just disappearing off to somewhere else in the middle of the conversation, and I can tell when they're not looking at me, or they're playing with their toes or whatever they're doing. Like that, I haven't necessarily lost them. They're with me, but they're just thinking about something else.
Yeah, it's a state of being human. It's
Yeah.
this if you're bored at work, you're at a meeting at work, maybe it has nothing to do with your project or your department, and so you just drift off.
Right.
I think a lot of us, if not all of us, have had that experience of driving home, and you're coming home from work, you're coming home from school, you're coming home from picking up the kids or the store or something. And about 5, 6 blocks from the house, like, oh wait, I got my parents coming over this weekend, or I got I got
Yeah.
my friends coming up, and then wait, I got that project due on Friday. Oh wait, I gotta get that power. And all of a sudden, you're in your driveway, you're in your garage, you're in your parking spot, and you don't remember the
Yeah.
last 5 or 6 blocks.
You were
You've
on
just
cruise
moved,
control
you
automatically with your subconscious in control.
you've just moved into an altered state of consciousness, the hypnagogic trance state. You've moved yourself into hypnosis. So it's something we all can do. Whether you're
Mm,
bored in high school math class, you're bored watching a movie, you're driving home, because your subconscious mind knows how to drive home.
yeah.
Now, if you're in a new city, you're going to be very attentive and trying to figure out where you are and listening to GPS or looking at your
Yeah.
Thompson Brothers map or whatever. And but if you've lived there for like several years, 365 days a year, you've driven home potentially 1,000 times.
Yeah. It's
You
automatic.
know how to drive home. So just like you know how to tie your shoes, you know how to zip up your jacket, you know how to walk down the street, you just drive home.
For me, like the image I get in my head is somebody who's a guitarist and a singer at the same time,
Mm. Oh
right?
yeah.
My son and I were talking about music the other day, and we were talking about Phil Collins in particular, and he
Yeah.
didn't know that Phil was the drummer in the band.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me how much is going on subconsciously with the drumming while he's singing. And I don't know
Yeah.
which one's more in control. Is it the singing? Is it both? Whatever. But it's that kind of that same thing you're talking about where you're so good at something that it's on autopilot and it allows you to drift off into whatever that next part is.
Yeah, you get into that zone. Well, and then we can even talk about the gamma brainwave state. And this is a whole different conversation, maybe for a whole
Sure.
different podcast. But I don't know when. Maybe I have it somewhere here too. The National Geographic that talked about this, but they brought over some researchers brought over uh, neuroscientists, neurobiologists, brought over a bunch of Tibetan monks from the Himalayas.
Hmm.
These guys have been meditating 7, 8 hours a day for 20 years. What does the brain look like when you're meditating for 7, 8? You
Right.
have that much skill at meditating. You've done it for so long. And so they hooked him up, and that's the cover of the National Geographic is this Buddhist monk with all the wires on his head,
Okay.
watch the brain. And what they thought, he'll go down to theta, he'll go down, they'll slow it down. He sped it up.
Oh,
If regular beta, what you and I are in, and many people listening, we're like firing about 18, 20 cycles per second. Maybe you're getting into that stress response, that fight or
hmm,
flight response, getting a little nervous, getting a little upset. you're maybe fire 25, 30. Well, this guy going into meditate, or the group of monks moving into this deep meditative state started firing at 100 cycles per second.
Wow. So they
So they,
really ramped up.
yeah. And so that's the flow state, that creative state. So like when you were talking about drums and singing or playing guitar and singing. What about bass and singing, where you have
Yeah.
to, that's rubbing your stomach and patting your head. And or
Yeah.
you somebody I don't know, like Brian Wilson, where not only are you
Right.
playing bass and singing, but you're singing that high part. You're singing the high falsetto part while playing the
Yeah.
bass, you know, and so you get into that flow state, and you think like, oh yeah, you just get really relaxed and you get really into you slow down. No, you speed it up.
Right.
And these Buddhist monks are getting into this spiritual state where actually their brains were processing information faster.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so that's a whole, again, that's a whole
Yeah.
different
But
conversation.
what,
But
how do you get into hypnotherapy and NLP? Like what was your background before taking this path?
oh, my background was anxiety and depression,
Oh,
and so
okay.
I was using it for my own healing, and I sort of I really deal with a lot of stuff as a teenager in life and my family and all that,
Sure.
and struggle with depression and anxiety. This is the 1980s, and there's no
Yeah.
internet.
No, there's nothing.
There wasn't even like, the SSRI drugs like Prozac and things.
Yeah.
Those didn't come out till the late 1990s. And so in the 80s, the early 80s, I graduated high school in 85.
I graduated 88, so we're basically the same
Yeah,
age.
the
Yeah.
same age. Yeah. And so,
Nobody
there's
cared
you
about
know
your
what it was. It
feelings
was like,
then,
yeah, it
right?
wasn't.
You just had to deal with it, suck it up, and keep moving forward.
You just felt, well, this is how it is. This is how people are. This is how you feel.
Yeah.
And there wasn't any help, and you certainly didn't talk about it. And
No.
so, whatever book you might be able to find in the library or the bookstore, or whatever psychotherapist you could find in the yellow pages,
Yeah.
you got to ask your friends at lunch what psychotherapist they go to.
Right, because they all have a reaction to that as well.
Yeah, and your parents don't understand because they're not sending you to a psychotherapist, or they don't understand that stuff. And so,
They didn't
and
even understand themselves that at that time, parents. Like I
yeah,
look at my parents and I love my parents, but the emotional intelligence level, but from the two of them, like
yeah.
not so great.
And also look at most people's understanding of psychotherapy at that point was the Bob Newhart show in the 70s. And it
Oh
was a
yeah,
comedy
with
show. It was
Daryl and
a
Daryl.
half hour comedy, and Bob was a psychiatrist,
Yeah.
and all of his patients were whack jobs for the
Yeah.
comedy of it, you know.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then he
Eh,
has to go home and deal with home and all that stuff. It was a comedy. But that's what we knew psychotherapy. Well, you have to be really crazy. You have to be weird and strange. And of course,
right.
they amped that up for the comedy of the TV show. But um, so that's what we knew about it. That's all
Yeah.
we understood. And so, and especially as a teenager, teenage boy, you're just going to hide all that stuff or swallow it
Yeah.
or bury it. And so, but it was really, moving later into life as I move into my 20s, that I was like, I got to do something about this. I can't feel like this anymore. And
Yeah.
the 1990s was that big personal growth, personal development, self-help movement. Tony Robbins was becoming super huge.
Well, look at
Well,
the guests that Oprah would have on during that time.
Oprah was becoming super huge. Tony Robbins, awakened giant within. He had stopped all that kind of, I wouldn't say it was clownish, but the kind of magician-y kind of, I'm
Yeah.
going to teach somebody how to have snakes on them. He had proven himself and was able to do more personal development, self-growth kind of work. And
Yeah.
Awaken the Giant Within was super huge, super popular. And of course, we started getting the internet in 96, 97, and those SSRI drugs started coming out, Prozac and all those
Hmm.
things. The conversation opened. Oprah started talking about it. Tony
Yeah.
Robbins started talking about it. Merv Griffin and, Good Morning, Chicago or whatever. We all were able to start talking about it.
Well,
And
you suddenly realize there's more people like yourself, and you're able to have conversations.
because you could find groups on the internet now. You could
Yeah.
find forums. I mean, there wasn't Facebook and
Sure.
less stuff, Instagram and all that stuff. But you could find these forums and these groups and talk to each other and realize you're not alone. Now, with all these, books coming out and articles and blog posts and, people talking about it on Oprah and where they'd always give you some help. They'd say like, oh, here's some, like in an article in a magazine or a
Hmm.
book or something, blog post. At the end, they would say, and here's the 5 things you can do to change your life.
Yeah.
And it would be
Like
both.
Woman's World or Reader's Digest or any of the
Yeah.
other ones. Yeah.
And 4 of them would always be different, but there was always one that was always the same. It was always hypnotherapy.
Oh,
It was,
okay.
well, one of the greatest things you can do to change your life is hypnotherapy
Yeah.
because it helps you tap into the power of your own subconscious mind. It's like it was always, and it's like all the people I was reading, Tony Robbins and all these people was like they were talking about hypnotherapy.
Mm.
So I, was able to find somebody to work with, and I started working on myself using that.
Yeah.
And so the kind of two big aspects of my life were struggling with depression and anxiety,
Hmm.
and a more spiritual sense because I grew up very religious. I grew up in
Okay.
the Episcopal Church, kind of Catholicism light, with the robes, and candles, and all that.
Yeah.
So the Episcopal Church was just 5, 6 blocks away from my house growing up. So that's the church we went to.
Okay.
But I was also sent to a private school run by Baptists.
Oh,
So
okay.
I had Baptist school Monday
A
through
little,
Friday.
a little more singing.
Church on well, there was chapel and we had Bible class, and so I was
Yeah.
like inundated. And they're strangely two very divergent kind of philosophies of Christianity, Baptists
Right.
and Episcopalians. But my life was just that was my life. All I
Mm.
knew was Christianity and religion. And as I graduated school, your friends all take off. I mean, again, 85. It's not like we're
Yeah.
hanging out and texting each other and WhatsApping each other or whatever. And so you just kind of break apart and you just move off to different places and same with my church friends. I just
Yeah.
found myself kind of alone and just like all my friends just literally disappeared within a year, like within a
Right.
summer. And lonely and depressed and anxious. And I was just fascinated by spirituality and things. And I met my then girlfriend, now wife, back in '87, and we moved up to Santa Cruz,
Mm.
California. Grew up in San Diego, moved up to Santa Cruz, and if you know where that is on the map, it's
Hmm.
south of San Francisco, west of Silicon Valley, Cupertino,
Okay.
Mountain, San Jose. So it was that stereotypical cliched melting pot. And there's people from around the world. Of course, the big university there, UC Santa
Yeah.
Cruz, where NLP
So are
was
you
founded.
suddenly introduced to all different types of ways of thinking from the
Yeah. It
diverse
opened
type
up
of
again.
people you're dealing with?
There's no internet. I didn't
Yeah.
know this stuff. World music was starting to come out. And so you started to understand maybe a little bit more about the world. Peter Gabriel having
Sure.
you door on In Your Eyes. Um, had Paul Simon and Graceland. You had David Byrne and Talking Heads doing some more kind of Brazilian kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so world music was actually coming into more mainstream culture. And then I move up to Santa Cruz. And yeah, there's festivals every weekend and fairs and there's dance troupes and there's music and there's food and you
Mm.
meet people, you work with people, you go to school with people and you learn about where they're from and their culture and their philosophies of life. And you take a Zen meditation class and you take a martial arts class.
Yeah.
And I was really into music. I was learning all about music and drumming, different kind of drumming around the world. And as you learn about that, you also learn more about their spirituality.
Yeah.
I was like, my wife and I, um, we lived in a back house. We lived in a kind of pretty decently sized property. We lived in a back house. The front house was filled with a bunch of guys learning Pencak Silat, the Indonesian martial arts.
Yeah. Stick fighting
But like,
and everything
like
else.
the head guy, the main guy was like a 6 foot Irish guy with
Okay.
red hair.
Yeah.
It's like you just learn stuff.
Yeah.
So my worldview started widening. It's like you go to the spiritual bookstore and it's like, okay, I like this shelf of books only.
Right.
There's all this stuff about angels and there's stuff about reincarnation and there's stuff about Atlantis and there's stuff about energy vortexes and it's no, 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 crystals. I just like
Yeah.
my little shelf And then as
Sure.
I learned about people, I learned about, again, their philosophies, their worldviews. It just started opening. This is a slow drip
Yeah.
from hearing Peter Gabriel and Paul Simon to, now I'm learning more about how to meditate and
Right.
about reincarnation and learning about music from India and, all this stuff is informing my worldview as I'm trying to release and let go of this hurt and pain and depression and anxiety.
Were you aware of the hurt and the pain of what it was that you had to get rid of, or was it just a general sense of something?
No, I knew what it was. I mean, it's just,
Okay.
life and hurt and pain and
Sure.
what, trauma that you deal with when you're growing up as a child and the issues of family. But, you can only talk about it so much. And I had done
Mm-hmm.
talk, I found a counselor and things, but, if you
Yeah.
don't really know what the issue is, you can only just
Can't fix it.
talk around it so much and yeah, and not fix
Right.
it. And so I think that's, not that talk therapy, I know not to be, disparage talk therapy. I think it'd be very helpful and useful and healing. But if
Sure.
you don't really know what the core issue is, you just end up
It's
kind of just talking in
spinning your
circles.
wheels and going in circles. But
Yeah,
you're
it's
having
very
these
helpful.
moments of opening up to the world, and you're essentially your best client because you're trying to help yourself. And then is it you have so much success you decide that, okay, maybe I can help others?
No, no, not really. This is I'm on the kind of 30-year plan in
Okay.
terms of this, my hurt and pain from high school to learning about the world, doing my own healing work
Mm-hmm.
in the 90s and more in like the early 2000s when I was really started working with a hypnotherapist.
Yeah.
And just my son is born and we moved to Flagstaff, Arizona, where I am right now, and trying to just live life and have a house and
Yeah.
be healing. And but I'm still very interested in just growing and being a better human being and doing my own healing work that I need to do, maintaining and enhancing the healing work I've been doing, as well as spirituality.
Yeah.
And I came uh, into a unique situation about, I don't know, 12 years ago or so, uh, where I accidentally went into a spontaneous past life regression, I guess you'd
Oh,
call it.
okay. Was it in the middle of
And
a session with somebody, or what
I
was
was
going?
talking to a friend on the phone.
Okay.
And so I had reconnected with a friend from Santa Cruz I had, and we'd kind of lost touch. And just life and kids, and she had her own kid, I have my own kid.
Sure.
And she's a guy, a friend of the big friend group we had
Yeah.
in Santa Cruz. And I just, found her on Facebook. I mean, as one does, you start looking up your
I
old friends, and it's
I
like,
just found a friend today that I have been searching for 35 years.
oh wow,
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
See, it's like,
I'll give you a quick story. Every time in high school, she used to drive me home every day in a yellow Mustang, and she would play Boston all the time.
nice.
So for 35 years, every time I hear Boston, this woman pops into my
Yeah.
head. And I've searched hundreds of times. And today I just happened to remember where she lived, and I typed in the address and her mom popped up. And her
Oh,
mom's like in her 80s. And I found her on
sure.
Facebook and I sent her a message. And I said, "Hey, is this your daughter?" And she's like, "Yeah." And she shared my info, and I wound up texting her, and she's like, "I just thought of you the other day." And I'm like, pretty amazing. So like I know what it's like to find somebody you hadn't talked to in a long time. So you
Yeah.
reconnected with this friend that you hadn't
Yeah. Yeah.
talked to in a long time.
We'd been on a family vacation in southern Utah. We're just seeing all the beautiful red rock, and I'd found myself kind of on my own, just looking at this beautiful thing. I was like, okay, what's the next steps I got to take? What should I be doing next to further my life, further my spirituality? And just this
Yeah.
thing, oh, Laura, I haven't talked to Laura in a really long time. And so uh, the next day, after we got home, next day, I was like, oh, I'll just look up on Facebook. And she had literally just joined a few months before that.
Wow.
And because I'd looked for her before and other friends from high school and things,
Hmm.
just people. here and there. That was the big thing Facebook was for, right when it came out.
Yeah. Now
And
you can't even find your friends on there because it's just advertising.
yeah. And anyway, I reached out and we just started chit-chatting back and forth and we'd get on phone calls and one of the things we just had a real easy time conversing
Yeah.
uh, uh, back in the day, and we'd talk about all things spiritual or just life and things. And we got on these long phone calls when we'd have time. And this one time we're just kind of, she started getting these dreams and things about something about World War II.
Yeah.
And this is long and involved, and but
That's
over
all
the
right.
first couple of weeks, she started having these dreams, but just kind of bits and pieces. And then some of her friends where she lived were
Hmm.
getting bits and pieces of stuff. And I was of the like, yeah, I don't know. This is
Yeah.
just
Sounds a little
hard.
kooky when you think
Yeah,
like when if you don't
again,
understand it at the time.
yeah, and I wasn't experiencing it, and I didn't
Yeah.
wasn't having dreams or anything. She was just telling me about it, and I think, oh, I think you're this character in this dream, and I think we're having these troubles with this because my partner is also in this situation in World War II, and but she's talking about it as if we really did this thing, she's experiencing this past life
Yeah.
that we were all in, like her friends there and her husband and me, and I'm like, okay, I want to be supportive and I want to be a nice friend and everything. But again, it's
Sure.
that part of the bookstore that I'm just like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And we're having this conversation and we're kind of wrapping it up, and we're just kind of that. It's not an awkward silence, but just like that. You can be silent with
Processing.
somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, I start weeping hysterically, like
Huh.
crying, just
Yeah.
hysterically. And I start saying over and over again, it's like, I can't find you. I don't know where you are. I can't find you. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, you can't find me where? I'm on the phone with you. And I
Yeah.
was like, I can't find you. I'm looking everywhere for you. I can't find you because part of the dream was that she got sent to a concentration camp.
Okay.
Um, and so I was like, I can't find you. I can't. I'm looking everywhere for you. I don't know where you went. And she finally realizes it's related to the dream stuff she'd been talking about for about a week or two.
Yeah.
And I'm sobbing, tears down my face. And part of my brain is like experiencing this deep grief and trauma. And the other part of my brain is going, I have no idea what's happening.
So you're
WTF.
two opposite ends of the spectrum at the
Yeah.
same time.
And so yeah, it was very schizophrenic.
Yeah.
It was very multiple personality.
Yeah.
Of one part of me going, I have no idea. This is the weirdest thing and strangest thing and most frightening thing because am I having a stroke? Because I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I say, I can't find you. I can't find you. And at the same time, I'm saying, Laura, I don't know what's going on. I have no idea what is happening. And she says, do you need me to forgive you? And I say, yes. And she says, I forgive you. That wasn't your fault. And I just like,
All that
and
energy went away.
yeah, it just like a left. And I'm like, okay, I don't, still to this day, I don't know what that was all about.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was, we were holding that for somebody, like maybe our soul group,
Yeah.
maybe that really was us. And we had to get together again to release and let that go,
Yeah.
or, pick any other scenario, because I don't know. But that was so extraordinary to me.
Hmm.
I started just, okay, what's that all about? Because I'd heard of reincarnation, I've heard of
Sure.
past lives.
Were you a
Um,
believer in any of that stuff before that conversation?
I was not a believer. Does
Right.
that make sense?
Sure.
I wasn't
You weren't
like,
sold on it yet.
I don't know, I was sold on it, but I did not disbelieve it.
Okay.
I know there's certain aspects of Christianity where absolutely not. There is no past lives, there is no reincarnation.
Yeah.
But it's literally pretty much in every culture
Yeah.
throughout time that there's some sort of coming back and
Hmm.
cycling through and learning and growing and reincarnation kind of stuff. Whether, especially Buddhism and Hinduism and lots of
Yeah.
cultures in South America and things like this. And so this aspect of me growing up with Christianity, where you are born and that's when your soul gets born, when you're
Yeah.
born, in utero or whenever the soul arrives, and then you die and hopefully go to heaven, and
Right.
that's it.
It's a
Kind
one
one and
trip.
done. Yeah, one and done, or the aspect of it where it's one and done, and you just lights out.
Yeah.
You know, whereas so many other cultures throughout time in the last 20,000 years, um, as well as around the world, have some sort of maybe philosophy or theories or spirituality around coming again and again.
Yeah.
So I knew of it just, through my research and studies and reading and
Sure.
interest in various cultures around the world. I don't know that I had any sort of belief or disbelief in it
Okay.
at that point, but I did have that extraordinary, and so I think that part of it was with her was just like, okay, you're having these dreams.
Yeah.
I'm not having them, so I'm just listening to you tell these stories. And so I guess, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't have any way to verify any of this. So it's just, interesting dreams that you happen to be having. Then I had this physical response to releasing and letting go of that hurt and pain. And just trying to map it out, sort of like, 3x5 cards. You're a true crime podcast and you're trying to
You
find a
got the
serial killer.
string going from one
Yeah.
spot to
Straight
the
through it.
other, trying to break down the
Yeah.
crime.
When I'm trying to figure it out afterwards, and there's so many, again, maybe that was us, and we had to release and let that go in this life because it was so painful.
Yeah.
It was so traumatizing that we held on to it. This life, we release and let it go. Or maybe we came back to help heal it for part of our soul group or our soul family because it was
Yeah.
so for them. They couldn't come back, and we had to resolve it for them because there was like other people involved. It wasn't just the two of us.
Sure.
And then after that whole thing, it all just kind of drifted away, just like life got busy and,
Hmm.
it wasn't this in intensity of it anymore. And so, but ever since then, I was just extraordinarily fascinated by it,
Yeah.
by consciousness and trying to find answers to it.
How do
Yeah,
you
like maybe
start
that,
chasing that after that? Like
yeah.
where
So
you have this profound experience and suddenly you either want more or you want to understand it, and
yeah.
like where do you go from there, especially at that time?
Yeah, and so hypnotherapy became a great tool
Yeah.
because nowadays, I mean, back in the day we couldn't do this, but nowadays you can go on ayahuasca ceremonies, you can go to Malibu or you can go to Austin or wherever, go
Yeah.
get a pretty inexpensive ticket to South America
Mm-hmm.
and go to a ceremony out with a shaman. You couldn't do that in the 80s or 90s.
No.
Uh, it was highly, highly, highly illegal.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I don't know how they do it, get licenses or something, and of course there's nowadays microdosing, but back in, 60s, 70s, 80s, you could do LSD and all sorts of things. But I never,
Sure.
due to my upbringing and my, I was a fan of Pink Floyd and the Beach Boys and things, and I saw what happened to, not saw, but, I
Yeah.
read the stories of Sid Barrett and Brian Wilson, and it was kind of
Pink
frightening, you
Pink
know?
Floyd is one of my favorite bands.
Yeah.
I at the end of the year, I went on Apple Music and it told me all the songs I played throughout the year.
Yeah.
Like this is why I'm teaching classes. Like Pink Floyd turned out to be the number one song, like number one band,
Yeah.
and the song that was number one for me is Time. And
No,
it never dawned on me what that song was actually about. And I was sitting there one day, and all of a sudden I had like a download into my head as I was listening it. And it's about a young man who has all the time in the world. And
okay.
by the end of the song, he's an old man who doesn't have any of the time anymore. And I had listened to that song like, I don't know, 1,000 times. And then suddenly one day it made sense. So I love the way music opens me up to things,
Yeah.
and Pink Floyd is one of those. I'm a microdose guy. I've done microdosing for years, a couple times a week. Nothing crazy, but just enough to get my brain into a state. And I've found that when I'm open to these things, like a lot of this stuff, like will open itself up to me back.
Sure. Yeah. And that's what's extraordinary about this time, this age, is we have so many tools.
Mm-hmm.
So many techniques. So you could do an ayahuasca ceremony. You could literally hop on a plane
Yeah.
and find a shaman and do these 2, 3, 4 day ayahuasca ceremonies
Yeah.
down in South America, or you go to somewhere here in North America. You could do the microdosing. You could do hypnotherapy
Mm-hmm.
and move into these states. These are all different experiences,
Yeah.
maybe accessing different parts of the universe or your soul or something,
Sure.
or
But
different ways of being.
due to your religious beliefs, you didn't experience it that same way.
Religious beliefs and honestly, just the deep fear of Sid Barrett and Brian Wilson and the
Okay.
kind of
Just
the how they
not
went
coming
off,
back from
and
it. Yeah.
not that that happens to very many people, but it seemed like in the 60s they were these creative geniuses, and they
Mm-hmm.
started, with the LSD and things, and whatever mental health issues they were dealing with just got enhanced,
Yeah.
because of maybe the drug, and that's what you read about in the books and things.
Well,
It
a lot
knows
of
what
those people were taking that stuff recreationally versus using it as a medicine,
sure, yeah, yeah,
right? Which is
yeah,
two totally different things. And so you have this profound experience with this woman that you're talking to on the phone, and you're realizing that maybe you were here in another life, and now you're starting to open yourself up to this. Hey, maybe I've been here a bunch of times, and maybe there's some lessons to learn from the things that I didn't get right in the previous lives,
yeah.
right?
And so in researching and looking into it, of course, it's like, oh, well, you can use hypnotherapy for past life regression. I started reading the books of Michael Newton,
Hmm.
and, again, just trying to figure out my own story out.
Are you able to have a past life regression on your own without somebody guiding you through it? Is that a thing?
Yeah, that's the thing. The
Okay,
the the reasoning behind, there's thousands upon thousands of recordings on YouTube you can use. There's
sure.
recordings of Brian Weiss and Dolores Cannon and some of the big pioneers of this work that you can listen to and have
Hmm.
a past life experience. The reason for maybe using a guide and doing a one-on-one session is to be more specific
Okay.
what it is you're either looking for or wanting to heal. And what's great about working with somebody is especially if somebody who's trained and actually knows how to help move through trauma,
Yeah.
whether it's current life trauma, like more like
And
clinical.
what's the term for that? Is it generational trauma?
Oh,
I know there's
generational
different.
trauma. Well, that's a whole different thing in terms of you may be holding on to the hurt and pain uh, of family,
Yeah.
of grandparents, great grandparents, and there's even biological
Yeah.
issues around that, in that they've done research with the children of Holocaust survivors have a DNA marker for fear that the children of non-Holocaust people don't
Wow.
have. So there's actual, genetic coding
Yeah.
sometimes for generational issues. And so there's lots of great work in terms of ancestral healing
Hmm.
that can be done. Um, and yeah, and it's fascinating beyond belief. And again, that's where that whole thing, well, maybe that experience I had with the World War II and the kind of spontaneous healing event, maybe that was ancestral.
Yeah.
You- But yeah, there's also a lot of cultures, maybe not so much this Western culture of ours, but there's a lot of cultures that have great connection to ancestors, to grandparents,
Yeah.
to the elders, and elder and ancestor veneration and their ceremony, and there's remembrance. I don't think we do that much, here in the Western world, maybe.
No, but it feels like there's a starting to be more of a blend between traditional and holistic medicine. Just in
Yeah,
the last five, like really since COVID, where people had time to sit around and think about stuff.
yeah,
And when you're having these realizations about like maybe you've been here before and you're part of something else bigger, how do you start educating yourself on that to start to go down that path? Is it books? Do you
yeah.
find somebody
Well,
to guide you through it? Because it's hard to wrap your head around when you're
yeah.
starting to experience some sort of an awakening.
Yeah. And one of those coincidences upon coincidences is I live in Flagstaff, Arizona, which is right next door to Sedona,
Okay,
Arizona.
which is a very hot spot, like a big hot spot, right? It's a
Yeah, yeah,
vortex of
hotbed
energy.
of spirituality and the New Age, and a lot of people move to that area because of the the energy sense they get there, the vortexes, as they
Hmm.
call these energy vortexes out in various parts of Sedona and out in nature. And so in the, around the 50s and 60s, it became kind of a spiritual um, landing point for a lot of people.
Hmm.
And they became more, also kind of retirement and things. It's not so much a family town, but it seems to be this mix of retirees and of course tourism
Hmm.
and spiritual seekers. And so I was learning more about it, and I started, finding out about Brian Weiss
Yeah.
and his books, Many Lives, Many Masters. I started looking into, Michael. Now the internet's out there, you know, and you could
Yeah.
do a lot more research. You could start hearing recordings,
The, the, a- the
doing that
access is
myself.
so much better than trying to go
Yeah,
to a library and thinking they might have one book there. Now you
yeah,
have millions at your fingertips.
yeah, yeah. So it's extraordinary. The time we're in. I mean, I know there's a lot of
Hmm.
issues, there's a lot of problems, but there's also it's one of the most extraordinary times to be able to access this wisdom and this knowledge and this information.
Yeah.
And it's just like I was so fascinated by all of it, and I was so fascinated by hypnotherapy in and of itself, just for its extraordinary ability to heal hurt and pain and trauma, whether the trauma was last month or 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was with my own experience and just reading, other people's accounts and other people's books. I was just fascinated by past life regression, and just kind of one of those things of I was able to pivot later in life, and I'd been focused on a school, Hypnotherapy Academy of America.
Hmm.
It's in Albuquerque. It used to be in Santa Fe. Now it's in Albuquerque. They moved to a bigger building. It's been around, well, at this point, it's probably been around 40 years. And it's just one of the premier training centers for hypnotherapy. And so I was able to go there, and it's like a real school. You go there and sit in a classroom,
Okay.
25, 30 other people from around the world.
Yeah.
And you learn about the scientific validity of this work, and maybe you see a demonstration at the front of class on how to do the work, the specific technique. And then
Hmm.
you break up into small groups and you work with each other. And it's 500 hours, and it's 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. So it's not like some history class at
Yeah.
university that's, 1
Yeah.
p.m. to 2
You're
p.m.
basically in college.
Yeah. This is 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday for 2.5 months. And it's
Wow.
just intensive work, and it's fun and it's exciting, and you're doing your own healing work because you switch seats. So I get to be the hypnotherapist, and I work with somebody, and then
Yeah.
we switch.